Welcome to Language Testing. I am Rodeza Esmunares. I am here to discuss the subtopics under Unit 18, Arguments and Evidence in Test Validation and Use. So the first subtopics is the Arguments in Language Testing. We may construct an argument for the use of a particular item type in a test that would be useful in test design and prototyping or for a complete test. We can also construct an argument to support test use for its stated purpose. So under arguments in language testing is we have an item level argument to guide prototyping. So these items were designed for prototyping because it was hypothesized that they would test three features of the good readers, namely fluent and automatic word recognition, the ability to recognize collocations, and having a large recognition vocabulary. So these features were drawn from the theory and previous research, which led us to construct items that tested words in collocation and sets. So we have an example here of an test item, which is to identify the odd word out by drawing circle around it. So this item were challenged during prototyping, and the argument for this item type, we can look it in the figure 18.4 in the next slides. Some of the challenges to the argument may be addressed with the data that were collected as a matter of course to support score meaning, but other challenges may require the collection and analysis of a new data. If mounting data suggests that the validity of the argument is unsound, we are obliged to abandon our item type. So these are the diagram, which is showing how arguments and evidence are used to support the use of certain test questions for measuring students' textual competence or their ability to understand written language. So we can use the students' answer to specific test items to learn about their ability to recognize words quickly, understand common word combinations, and know many words. So the left side is the supporting the argument and the right side is the challenging the argument. So we have here in the left side item statistics, data, and correlation with reading speed and vocabulary size help show these test items are useful. Our warrant or the reason is reading research shows that being able to recognize words quickly and having a large vocabulary are strongly linked to being good at reading. Our backing or the evidence is the studies and research support this idea. While in the right side, which challenges to the argument, these test items may not work well if they include idioms or cultural phrases that are biased toward Western cultures. Students rely on test-taking tricks like crossword puzzle strategies instead of true reading skills. There's no context so students can understand or use their vocabulary properly. And the last is that some students may guess wrongly because their strong vocabulary gives them ideas that don't match the test intention. The same argument structure can be used for the claims made for a specific test or for claims about test types. So it is considered the widely held view that the closed test or the fill-in-the-blank test was a valid measure of general language ability. So this diagram in figure 10.5 shows that argument for and against using closed test as a way to measure general language ability. So same in the figure A10.4, the right side, the left side is the supporting the arguments and the right side is the challenges to the argument. So closed tests are a valid way to measure general language proficiency. So, as the people believed that closed test was a valid way to measure general language proficiency, they have gathered an evidence that closed tests have stronger connection or correlation with tests like reading and dictation, which test overall language use rather than with a grammar-only test. The warrant or the reason is that language ability is a single, unified skills called G that can be measured. And their backing or support is research and studies back up this idea, or the meta-analysis of test result. While some people disagree by challenging the arguments. So these are the unless point reason to the doubt the validity of the closed test, which is located in the right side. The first one is the text chosen for the test affects scores, or some texts are harder or easier for a certain people. The second is how the test is scored changes the results. Or do you mark a word right only if it's exactly the same or if it's just a good fit? And the third one is the number of missing words or the deletion rate matters. Or too many or too few blanks can make it easier or harder. And the last one is that language ability isn't just one single thing, or it might be made up of different skills, not just one big or general ability. Well, the challenges to items should grow out of the test development process. Challenges or rebuttals to a claim made in a validity argument may involve any aspect of the test architecture using the ECD model, which you can see in the Unit A5. This may include student model in the framework, is inappropriate for the domain of inference, is under-specified, is underrepresented. The next model is the evidence model. Work products are not related to a student model. Work products are not sufficiently large to bear intended inferences. Evidence rules do not link observed variables to constructs. The scoring model is inappropriate or confused. The next model is the task model. Presentation material or input or prompts does not generate expected work products. Presentation materials introduces construct irrelevant variance. Work products are not related to the presentation material task variables are underdefined for the creation of parallel forms. Next model is the presentation model. Work products vary according to presentation. Scores vary according to presentation. Assembly model. We have targets and constraints. Targets. The test is unreliable. Constraints. Test specification are poor and so test content varies from form to form. Therefore, the test does not adequately represent the specified domain in relation to test purpose. Delivery model. The timing or speed affects test scores. Test content is not secure. Any aspect of test administration, which you can see in the Unit 8, effects of the products of scores. With reference to the example of the closed test, we can see that the 4 rebuttals or challenges to the argument can be explained by reference to these potential challenges. The first potential challenges is the choice of text affect scores. This is a task modal challenge that the choice of presentation material or input affects scores. In other words, scores vary depending upon the text chosen, which is not predicted by claim. The second potential challenges is the scoring procedure affects scores. This is an evidence modal challenge that the scoring procedure is either inappropriate or confused. Two scoring procedures have been developed for closed test. The correct word method, where only the original word from the text is scored correctly, or the semantically acceptable word method, where any appropriate word is scored correctly. The claim relies on test score being the same way method is chosen, but this was shown not to be the case. The third potential challenges is the word deletion rate affects score. This is a task modal challenge that the task variables are underdefined for the creation of parallel forms. The claim suggests that the closed test should be parallel even with different word deletion rates, but research shows that different deletion rates produce different scores for the individuals. And the last potential challenges is the language competence is not unitary but divisible. This is a student modal challenge that the modal underrepresent the construct. In this case, the construct is as broad as language ability. And treating this as a single ability does not account for what it means to know a language. Now let's proceed to A10.5.3, a test use argument. Bachman 2005 follows Kane 2001-2002 in suggesting that a validity argument can be supplemented by a distinct argument for test use, which Bachman terms a utilization argument. He achieves this by fusing the Tolman argument model with Misic's 1989 view that two types of evidence are required to support test use: the relevance and the usefulness of the score meaning for the intended decision. To this are added Misic's notion of the intended consequences of test use, as unintended consequences cannot be foreseen, and the concept of sufficiency. Bachman 2005 on page 14. Bachman suggests an argument structure similar to that presented in figure A10.6. The warrant types and required backing are explained as follows. So, the relevance of the score to the decision being made is supported by evidence that shows that the ability being tested is required for the activity in real-world context about which a decision is being made. Such evidence might, for example, include needs analysis or comparison for the real-world task and the test task. The warrant type 2, the utility of the score for the decision being made, relates to whether or not using the test score, or even if it is relevant, is useful in that it increases the probability of making appropriate decision According to Bachman 2005 on page 19, if it does not do this, other relevant assessment process should be used instead. Warrant Type 3, the intended consequences, is a statement of the benefits which might accrue to the test taker, the test user, or any of the other stakeholder through the use of the test. And Warrant Type 4, sufficiency, concerns whether the information provided by the test is in itself sufficient for making a decision, or whether additional information would be required in addition to the test score. What is not clear is what would constitute a rebuttal or counterclaim. Bachman 2005 on page 21 suggests that this might be first, reason for not making the intended decision, or the second, the intended consequences of using the test. The examples provided are in the context of a language test for hiring in the hotel industry. Bachman suggests that a test taker with a low score might still be hired because he was the son of the hotel owner, and for that the test taker has friends in cement and explosives and knows where the owner of the company lives. According to Tolman 2003 on page 94, makes it clear that the rebuttal indicates circumstances in which the general authority of the warrant would have to be set aside. That is, rebuttals are generally focused on warrants in order to challenge the argument. A counterclaim would therefore take one of four general forms, namely, first, the ability being questioned is not relevant to the decision being made. Second, the test score is not useful to making the decision, or it could be made without any test or using some other instrument more reliably. Third, the intended consequences are not in fact beneficial, or the test score is being used as a sufficient condition when in fact it is not. Intended impact on individuals. Bachman provides an excellent example of how it would be impossible to predict the effect of test use on each individual who might take the test. For example, in a society that places exceptionally high value on educational achievement, as reflected in test scores, the introduction of a new high-stakes test may have the unintended consequence of increasing suicide rates. This unintended consequence would indeed constitute a challenge to the test use argument, but this would take the form of a challenge to the intended consequences. Next is unintended use of test scores. The intended use of test scores is included in the test use argument and should be contained in all test documentation, including the specifications, such as unintended use of test scores may take one of two forms. The first is unintended use that the test developers do not know about or do not approve of. Second, an unintended use that the test developers know about and approve of. So, neither of these can be included as a rebuttal in a test use argument because they do not relate to the argument at all. Now let's discuss the A10.6 arguments and feasibility. Hertel 1999 on page 6 suggests that there are a number of advantages to looking at validity as argument, rather than considering it to be a matter of collecting information according to a checklist of things to do, a process that we might engage in if we were to work our way through the standards, Era et al. 1999, and apply each standard to the development and implementation of a new test. The first, he says, is that in the application of checklists, the tendency is to look for evidence that supports the validity or test use claim, whereas in an argument approach, we are forced to focus on disconfirming evidence. Secondly, an argument focuses our attention on the validity questions that are relevant to a particular test and its purpose. Time and resources are therefore not wasted in collecting evidence that has no bearing upon specific warrants or rebuttals. This unit has primarily been concerned with the metaphor of validity as argument. A validity argument can be constructed in a formal way that lays out the claims we wish to make about the meaning of test scores and how those claims may be supported by evidence. The formal validity argument also provides the infrastructure of a research agenda for us to test alternative interpretation in an ongoing process of assuming doubt. This approach to validity has a number of major advantages. The creation of validity argument inextricably links validity claims to stated test purpose and therefore guides research. This is an efficient and effective way for allocating resources to the tasks that require the most attention. The approach also shows us that retrofitting test purpose, while not always illegitimate, cannot be undertaken without extensive validation efforts. Above all, seeing validity as argument provides a framework within which we can conduct validity research in a principled way that allows the professional community to decide upon whether claims are satisfactorily established given our current state of knowledge. So, that's all with my report. Thank you for watching and listening to my video presentation. Goodbye, everyone.